I probably hoped my mic was on, wasn't it? There we go. Now we actually have yep, me on. Okay, there we go. There, now you can actually hear me. We'll have to cut that part out. Yeah, we're gonna be live streaming the Algorand Foundation May Community All Hands event. So sorry if you watched the very beginning. We had like nothing, had no sound. I always forget to turn that on. I wish it would just be default on, not default off. So we're gonna watch the live stream here. In the meantime, I'm going to tell you I recorded a show with a crypto talk show with the founder of Cosmic Champs, and we had a great talk. I left being very, very excited about the project. I think it's going to be a really good project. I was just kind of surprised at the things I learned, and I hope they put more of that out there because there's some really good stuff. Still waiting for them to start here, but make sure you leave it in the chat as the once it actually is on and going. We will. I'll just leave it play. I probably will mute my mic and we can just talk in the chat instead of trying to talk over the speakers. I think that's probably going to be best. But right now, actually kind of surprised it's taking a little bit longer than started. It's supposed to start at 11 my time here in the central region, and it still just says the event is about to start. So powered by Livestorm, test my configuration. Yeah, it should be coming soon. I'm really curious what they have to say. So in the meantime, yeah, I'm very excited about. Expect later in the week I will have the crypto talk with Maddie Blanchard from Cosmic Champs. Very cool stuff. I'll share a little tidbit now. The most exciting thing is you'll basically be able to play the game. For one, it's real time. It's gonna be on mobile, and you won't have to buy anything to play. Now you will have to buy an NFT if you want to get in on the closed beta. There we go. Straighten out the head a little bit there. It's hard because it's reversed. There we go. Also interesting, and this is not related to Algo, but there has been some debate about whether. Oh, are we live?
Programming Joanna Moran, Digital Marketing Manager Ronan.
All right, it's live. We're going to switch over.
Algrand Foundation CEO Stacy Warden, who joins us for her first community all hands. So our agenda today includes 4 key topics. They will be governance, ecosystem funding, developer programming,
can you guys hear it?
And events and community updates.
Let me know in the chat if you can't hear it.
There will be a Q&A at the end of the session. We've collected your top questions, okay, via the registration form. We will answer those in order of relevance and popularity. If there's time at the end, we will open up the questions tab. If we do this, please remember to keep the questions to the topics at hand. Though we will have a full hour for this call, our goal is to stay under 45 minutes out of respect for our community's precious time. So without further ado, Stacy, I will turn it over to you for governance.
Stacy Warden, CEO, by the way. Okay, good. I'm glad you guys can hear it.
Ronan, do you want to put the agenda up? Okay, so what I will do first is I will talk a little bit about the context behind the governance vote, and then my colleague Shai will go into the mechanics of the vote a little bit more and give a bit more detail and granularity around it. And then I'll come back and I'll talk broadly about how we were thinking about ecosystem funding and some strategic shifts that we've made there. And then my colleague Joanna will talk about some of the detail there and then roll into developer programming. And then Autumn, I think you are both maybe closing with events and community updates. Okay, so as you know, we have just had put forward another community vote for governance. And what I wanted to do, and what we wanted to do more broadly on this call, is to just talk about that vote and what we were thinking about it and how, and the context in which we made the decision to put this vote to the community. And, for us, it was, as you know, sort of the history of this is that we started out by giving participation rewards to the community. And then because we want the community to participate actively, this is very much part of Silvio's initial vision for Algorand, right? That there would be civic participation in this community. We stepped that up a notch and stopped giving rewards for, quote unquote participation and started giving rewards for governance. And so we wanted to reward a commitment to this protocol. And so that commitment, as you very well know, was to lock your algos for 3 months and to participate in governance voting as part of our sort of path to decentralization for the protocol as a whole. Well, we got to thinking about this and realized that this is only one way to be a good citizen of this community. Other ways to participate actively in this community are to participate in DeFi, to be a creator, to run nodes of various kinds. I mean, there's just very many ways that you can be an active participant in this community. And we came to the conclusion or the idea that we should count this kind of participation as well and count you guys that participate in DeFi for this particular vote, and we'll try to roll out some more as we go forward, but that we should count participation in the DeFi as a governor. That's the vote before you, to broaden the aperture of what we consider a governor to include those that participate actively in DeFi. Now, it's very important for me to say that this is not a call for community members to participate in DeFi. You should only invest in what you feel comfortable with, and you should only invest money that you know that you're not going to worry about losing. And this is not, financial advice, et cetera, et cetera. But we wanted to, acknowledge that participation and also put some burden of voting on DeFi participants as well. So that's the vote before you. And it's 2 parts. 1, that you will automatically be enrolled in governance rewards, and 2, that DeFi participation will get twice the votes, not twice the rewards per algo, but twice the votes. And why is that? And I'll just say a couple of words about that and before I hand it over to Shai. We have, and we are grateful for, institutional participation in the Algorand protocol. So we have institutional investors, and we have institutional investors that have been with us since the early days and that have made, really frankly, the development of this protocol possible. However, those large institutional investors, they have a lot of weight in governance voting, and they tend not to participate in DeFi. They're conservative institutional investors. The DeFi investors tend to be more household investors. We call them retail investors. And so the idea of giving DeFi participants 2 votes instead of 1 is kind of twofold. 1, it acknowledges a little bit more of an active participation because you're, if you're in DeFi, you're kind of in it a bit more actively than just locking up your algo. But secondly, it helps tip the scales a little bit in favor of smaller investors and away from larger institutional investors who have kind of an outsized weighting in the voting as it stands now. So it's a little bit of a way to kind of rebalance that. So that's the thinking behind it. And let me turn it to my colleague Shai, who's really, one of the important brains behind all of this, especially as it gets technical and the details. The devil is in the details, of course. So Shai, let me go hand it to you.
Thank you, Stacy. If you can move to the next slide. So this is the measure that Stacy was talking about, adding decentralized finance as one more sector in our governance. Let me just read the text real quick, and then I'll go through some of the details of how this was structured and why we did it this way. So we put 2 options. Option B is just keep the current state. Option A is granting governance status and twice the voting power to qualified DeFi projects whilst maintaining the same governance rewards program to algo holders that commit for the governance period. So this is the measure that Stacy was talking about. If you can move to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the details of it. But before I talk about the details, let me just convey to you the reason we structure it this way. And the number 1 reason is a sense of urgency. We need to start having our DeFi participate in a bigger way in Algorand, and we need it now. At the current point of time, blockchains in general, and definitely Algorand as well, need a very lively DeFi scene. And part of it is making sure that we both give the decision power and the rewards to DeFi participants. Can you move to the next slide? Good. So one thing that that means is if we need a system that we can roll in already in the next quarter. The vote will be June 1 through 15, and by July 1, if this measure passes, we need a system that we can start using. That means that we don't have time for building elaborate systems for measuring who is a DeFi participant and who is not. Instead, for now, we will just delegate it to TVL. And right now, the source that everybody uses for measuring TVL is DeFi Llama. So for the next quarter, we will also use DeFi Llama and their TVL measure as our source of who is a DeFi project and how big are those DeFi projects. Again, we are not married to them, but we do need a system that we can use now, and they are that system for now. We are very open to changing that in the future as we find better ways. Another part of these rules is that you need a project needs more than 10 million total value locked to be eligible to participate in governance. The reason for that is that we need our governance to be run by grown-ups. You need to be a grown-up before you can vote. This is our way of saying what is a grown-up project. It does not mean that we do not support fledgling new projects. We do support them. We have other ways of supporting them. But to get the responsibility and the rewards for governance program, you need to be a grown-up project. Stacy talked about the fact that we're giving them double the voting power, but not double the rewards. Again, the thing is they are investing a lot. They need to have double. Part of the we need something to implement now is we give the voting and the rewards to the projects themselves. It's their job to use it to collect their users' preferences and vote on their behalf if they can. And definitely distribute the rewards to their users. This is part of both decentralization. A user would choose to go to a DeFi project, potentially also based on the rules of that DeFi project, whether they let them vote or not, how they distribute the rewards, etc. And also because we cannot build ourselves the infrastructure to track every user of every project. It is the project's role to do that. So this is why we structure the thing the way we want. I just want to say one more thing about the double the voting power, and this is this. We may, if this measure passed, we may use similar tools to give voting powers to other sectors that we think should have more of a say. Of course, it will always be the case that whenever we change the governance rules, the current governors will have to approve that change before it happens. That's it.
It's pretty interesting proposal.
Measure that Stacy didn't mention, but I want to very briefly go over is the expert governors, the X-Gov. So in the previous voting session, we approved in principle the opening the floor for ex-governors that can promote measures to a vote. And this time we give a little more details of how we think this would happen. And the way it would happen is we will set up a system for everybody to propose measures. The X-Govs will have the power to take some of these proposals and put them on the next ballot. This is more or less the way it happens. There is a lot of more details of our thoughts of how this system will work off of our webpage. If you go to the measure in our governance dashboard, there is a link there. But overall, it would be this way. It's a 4-step process. Everybody can propose. Then the proposal, there's a like mechanism that's supposed to draw the attention of the X-Govs to more interesting proposals. Then the X-Gov vote on it, and at the end, it is brought to community vote, to the governance vote, subject to editing, just because we are an organization that need to adhere to its own rules. So we need to make sure that whatever proposal is doesn't send me personally all the money in Algorand, for example. But that's it. And that's all I wanted to say about governance.
What do you guys think about the X-Gov part?
Thank you, Stacy. And actually, I think Stacy is going to now run through some very important recent changes to our ecosystem funding structure. So Stacy, take it away.
Thanks. I've just been cruising a little bit through these comments, and I've got Brazil, Japan, Netherlands, London, Chicago, San Diego, Austin. I'm sure I've forgotten a lot of people. I'm sorry in advance, but it's pretty amazing how many people are from all over the place on this call. So thank you guys so much again for dialing in. We really appreciate it. So this change to governance, which I think is a good evolution towards decentralization, and again, you know, the foundation encourages you to vote accordingly, is one of the big decisions that we've made, strategic decisions that we've made this year. A second is to orient the activities and the team at the Algorand Foundation much more along the lines of vertical. So people will have vertical specialties, and they'll be responsible for being out on the ground, developing business, listening to the community, being experts, etc. in their areas. And so we've started with a couple of I think very obvious areas that we're going to try to really make an impact in, and that's the DeFi, NFTs, gaming, and impact and inclusion. And so we will encourage you to interact with us along these vertical lines, because that's where the expertise will lie. So that's kind of the forward-thinking kind of prioritization of how we are organizing ourselves internally. What that comes with, though, is a sense that we will be funding projects along these verticals, which makes sense, right? And the way that we used to do it is we used to have a link on the website, and you would submit a project for a grant, and we would take, we had 4 or 5 people doing this. We would have to go through all of these applications, and we would give out grants, and we would give out grants that tended to be pretty small, actually. And we spent a lot of time accessing and reading incoming applications. And so what we are doing now with this grant program is we are going to be giving fewer grants, and we are going to be giving larger funding, which is going to be much more partnership funding. So it will be maybe have a grant component to it, have an investment component to it, have a opportunity to participate in future rounds, that kind of thing. So it'll be a step towards the foundation really becoming an investment and an ecosystem partner with projects through their life cycle, so that we're kind of there for you through the life cycle. And we will, of course, still have smaller grants for developers, and if you win a hackathon and that kind of thing. And we will also have grant components to our investment profile. But we are really trying to get out of the business of taking incoming grants from everywhere, and more in the business of working cooperatively with ecosystem partners and opportunities that come out of our developer programs, of course, to crafting a partnership that's a little bit more robust and a little bit bigger and a little bit more directed in these verticals. And so that when you interface with the foundation as well, you've got a bit more of like a business head that has expertise in that area, and that is really going to be there for you as you need them. So maybe I'll stop right there, and I'll turn that to Joe, who will fill in anything I've missed and kind of take it forward in terms of our developer programs.
Yeah, thanks, Stacey. Hi, everyone. I'm Joanna. I'm based in Dublin, and I'm head of developer outreach programs. So what that means is any kind of programs that we have externally. So we have lots of partners around the world globally. We've got Tribe in Singapore, X-Gov in India. We've got Encode, which some of you are familiar with, and some exciting internal programs that we're about to launch. So stay tuned at Avm if anyone's wants to join it. We're streaming it. So there'll be some exciting announcements there. But just back to what Stacey was saying. So it's my job job to make sure that there are those programs that you mentioned, so that developers can really start, grassroots developers can get started, like, you know, ideating great ideas and building them over the course of a hackathon, or they might, developers might want to jump on through boot camps. For instance, Encode have just closed their boot camp there on Friday. So we're seeing lots of interaction with developers. Autumn, would you mind just going to the next slide, and then we'll go back to this one, please? So, okay, so we have like kind of numbers to share with you. Like, so for Discord, for instance, like we've seen an 11x increase of Discord users and developers in the last 12 months, and also on Reddit as well. So we've seen a 25x increase of developer engagement with us. In the last 6 months alone, we've had 2,000 developers engage with us through various different hackathons. So Hack Algo just ended on Gitcoin. We just did Activate and Wormhole last weekend. We saw amazing projects coming out of that, really strong teams. And also through the bounty hacks that we're doing with Reach and the Women Who Code. So there's loads of exciting hackathons, and that just gives you a flavor of like the numbers of the types of hackathons that we're involved in. So loads happening. Autumn, would you mind just going to the previous slide? So also, just in relation to our approach to the grants. So we, like late in 2021, we decided to spin up super grants. And that was our approach to do an RFP approach to developers, I guess kind of high potential developers, to come on board and support us with projects that we really felt that was necessary to like spin up on the Algorand protocol. So for instance, we needed bridges, or we needed oracles. EVM compatibility was one that we launched at Denver, and dev tooling, which is the current open super grant. So just to give you an update on the bridges, we had like 20 applications, really strong applications, and we whittled it down to about 7 projects who've been working away for the last couple of months. And we're really excited because bridging season is just about to open on Algorand, and we're really excited about that. So you're going to see like announcements coming out, like Messina, for instance, and there's a couple more announcing at AVM. So again, stay tuned. We have 2 oracles, Algoracle. I'm not sure if some of you are on the call. Big shout out to them, and Telor also. And the EVM compatibility is just in review, along with the dev tooling. So as projects get funded here through super grants, we will be updating you through our socials.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. That was great. Okay, so we are here at community. Hold on, let me get back to my excellent community updates and events. Okay, so for those of you just joining, again, my name is Autumn Peñalosa. I'm head of community for the Americas for the foundation. This is a really big year of tentpole events for the Algorand Foundation. Kicking off just in June, we'll have Blockchain Ireland Week in Dublin. Then in the US, leading up to CoinDesk Consensus, we'll have the Avm Roadshow in Austin. So you probably have seen a lot of this, a lot of tweets and things going on socials about this, but the Avm Roadshow, guys, is going to be an Algorand-owned, developer-focused ecosystem spotlight day. Well-produced. It's going to be a full day of great content and activations geared specifically to the developer community. It'll be the first of 3 global Avm Roadshow events with really exciting announcements and program launches that you won't want to miss, so we hope you can join us. And then following on later in the month in June, we have NFT NYC with a full lineup of 6 events across 4 days in New York City, highlighting some of our most exciting NFT creator community projects. We will have the help of some amazing strategic partners like Art Republic and Startup Boost and New York City Blockchain Club. So yeah, that's going to be a really full event. I know we'll see a lot of you there. And For our women in Web3 out there, we have 2 special events lined up just for you. At both AVM Austin and at NFT NYC, the foundation will host 2 more rounds of the Breakfast Club, which is a female-focused event series we launched at ETH Denver with the goal of bringing more women into the Algorand ecosystem to share all of the amazing opportunities and good vibes that we have going on. Last but not least, applications are open, gang, for the 2nd cohort of the Algorand Miami Accelerator. The first cohort was one of our most successful to date, a very well-funded group of teams. And so we're really excited to see who emerges for this next round. So please spread the word on that if you know any great startups that are looking for their layer 1 tech partner. You can find registration links for all of these events on our fancy brand new events page, which I hope you have all seen by now. We hope you like it as much as we do. The best part about this new page is that you all are invited to share your Algorand related events as well through a link that you'll find on that website. So great. And so then, so that wraps up events. Just moving on to a couple updates from the community team. Thank you all for your warm welcomes to our new foundation community managers, Fred Estante in Brazil and Adriana Bellotti in Australia. Our community team has been very busy, growing, expanding. We're really looking to just create a year of opportunity and engagement for everyone. We've added new community champions globally. We will continue to add more. You'll probably notice that Algorand Brazil has launched new social media channels as well as weekly Twitter spaces dedicated to the Brazil and Portuguese speaking communities. So just look for a lot more from the community team this coming year, including in a couple of months, the launch of Community Program 2.0, which the details of which I will save for our next all hands call, but we are cooking up and working very hard to give you all of the love and opportunity for engagement that you deserve. So thank you so much. That wraps up the community updates. Yeah, so I think that now we can move probably to the Q&A portion. We should give a good amount of time for that because we have some solid meaty questions to go through. So
thanks, Autumn.
Eamon, would you like to take over for questions?
I will indeed. We've had quite a level of questions being asked by the registrants, so thank you to the community for submitting your questions related to the topics of today's event. I'm going to go through them now. So the first question relates to governance, and this was asked actually a couple of times in various different ways, but what are the goals for Algorand community governance?
Is this Stacy?
Sorry, yes, that one's for Stacy.
Oh, sorry. So, you know, the goals for governance are, I think, as Silvio has laid out in the, you know, when he was first forming the protocol, and as I talked about a little bit in my remarks today, is that we have a philosophy of civic engagement on this protocol, right? So, for example, famously, we don't pay for consensus, right? We don't pay for participation in consensus. We have an idea that is kind of a part of the bedrock of our community that you should participate and that you should have some kind of civic duty for being a part of this protocol. And so governance is an outgrowth of that. The participation rewards were not particularly participatory, actually. And so we are now giving governance rewards for governors. And the way that you can be a governor is to participate, again, in this ecosystem. I feel like I'm repeating myself a little bit, but you know, it is part of our long-term vision of the community being the protocol and more decentralization of important decisions and more decentralized engagement, I would say. And so those are, you know, those always have been the goals for community governance, and they continue to be.
Great, thanks, Stacey. What will be the most beneficial way to use governance throughout all the options available on Algorand? That question submitted, I reading between the lines, I think this question reads around the commitment through the traditional governance portal that was part of period 1 and period 2, and then the introduction of alternative options to governance being liquid governance, the DeFi options provided by Algo, Guard and Folks Finance. So what would be the most beneficial way for users to engage, be it through the traditional method or through the newer alternatives? That's for sure.
Well, Ronan, as you know, we don't give investment advice of any kind. So we are absolutely not going to make a statement about what users should do. They should participate in the way that they feel is most comfortable for themselves.
Great. Can you explain how X-Gov tokens, I assume rewards here, will be allocated? Will this allocation be up for a vote to the community for Shai?
So about the X-Govs, X-Govs do not get any more rewards. X-Govs are nothing but regular governors who designate the rewards to go to one of the approved X-Gov DAOs. Now, we don't have any approved X-Gov DAOs yet, but we will in 2023, maybe even in 2022. And once we do, the way to participate, to be an X-Gov, is to participate in governance as usual and to designate your DAO, the one that you participate in, as the recipient of your benefits. Once you do that, you're an X-Gov. You don't get any more rewards this way, but you do get the extra power of being able to influence which measures will come to a vote.
A similar related question, Shai, to this topic is, could you shed more light on the X-Gov selection process?
So again, we don't select X-Govs. You select yourself by once we are selecting the approved DAOs. There are some rules that would have to apply to that. We haven't completely finalized them. We will, and we will let everybody knows what they are. We will work with partners to build these DAOs, to audit their code, etc., etc. Once those are available to you, you just choose to participate with one of them. The only thing you need to do is make sure that you participate in governance as usual and your rewards go to your DAO. And then your DAO will give you the power to vote.
Perfect, thank you. Stacey, a quick question for you actually. It's came in a couple of times, but can you expand upon the importance of TVL as a metric and why as a community should we be focused on TVL?
It's not that TVL as a metric it needs to be focused on. So we're not trying to say, to make sure that we put a number on the board. We are trying to have a vibrant ecosystem, and a vibrant ecosystem means having a lot of TVL, because TVL is how you participate in an ecosystem. You lock your algos, and in that way you can either let somebody borrow against them, or you can borrow against them, or you can put them up in the liquidity pool, or you can put them up for as trading pairs. I mean, this is all part and parcel of participating in a DeFi ecosystem. And so as our DeFi ecosystem gets bigger and more robust and more diverse, then the consequence of that will be that we will have more TVL in the ecosystem. So I think it's maybe a subtle distinction that I'm making, but it's not that we're chasing a number per se. We are looking for the biggest kind of community and activity that we can on Algorand, and that will lead us to higher TVL numbers, of course.
Thank you, and that's a nice precursor for how is measure 1 meant to increase TVL on Algrand? So the first voting measure, how is that meant to increase TVL? That came in a few times from different registrants.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious, honestly. We're giving governance rewards for your participation in TVL, so that is how we plan to encourage your participation in TVL. Reward, not encourage, but reward through governance rewards your participation in the DeFi ecosystem.
Perfect. Could we explain why we have moved away from the one algo equals one vote principle with measure for Shai?
So Stacey touched on it in her opening comments. We just generally feel that the scene of governance was skewed toward big institutional investors. And that people that participate in DeFi were, shortchanged in some way, and we're trying to fix that. It's very simple, and that's sort of our principle, is to try to balance the different sectors that are interested in Algorand And right now, our view that it was skewed against DeFi, so we're trying to compensate for that. This may change in the future or not, I don't know. But this is the reason we don't hold religiously to the one algo, one vote in our governance.
Thank you, Shai. Whichever way the vote goes, can we still have the option to do governance the way we do it now? So for
Yes.
passive, yeah, perfect. This is a question related to eligibility criteria for DeFi projects. So besides the 10 million TVL, is DAO membership required for X-Govs as well?
No, these are two completely separate things. X-Gov is one thing, DeFi is another.
Perfect. I think Shai touched on this. So when will the vote on the proposed voting measures be available? It runs from June 1st to June 15th, and that's Singapore time as well, just to note. With 2 voting measures now included as part of period 3 of governance, will voting be done through 1 or 2 zero algo transactions?
Just a single one. I mean, if you use the dashboard, you'll have 2 buttons to check, but it will generate a single transaction specifying both your votes.
Perfect. How does the foundation plan to prevent creation of a DeFi lobby overtaking the governance if measure 1 of period 3 passes? So if the measure passes, DeFi could gain more power than the other governors, leading to them overtaking governance and accepting measures that benefit only DeFi and not other parts of the ecosystem.
Well, I don't know if Stacy wants to add to that. I mean, I said it before, our goal is to balance between the different sectors that are interested in Algorand. Right now, DeFi is sort of, I don't want to say discriminated against, but was not given the power that it deserves. We're trying to fix that. Right now, it doesn't seem like there's any risk of it growing so much that it would overwhelm the other sectors. By the way, if it does, I'm guessing we will all be very happy for the lively DeFi scene that we have on Algrand. But it doesn't seem that in the immediate future any risk like that would happen. If it does, we will try to rebalance it again. And again, always the current governors will approve the change of rules for the next one.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I would just add that, as I said in my opening remarks, this is a first step. So we have, we recognize different kinds of participation in this ecosystem as governors. And so you can imagine that there are other kinds of ways of participating that should be called governors as well. And we will think hard about that and bring those ideas to the community as well.
Perfect. Will DApps like AlgoFi, Guard, and Folks Finance need to restructure their governance models?
Now, no, the answer is no. I mean, for the next governance period, there would be no change from their point of view. They will have to tell us, who they are. Like every other DeFi project, they're going to have to somehow tell us about themselves so that they can participate in governance. And we will publish these technical rules later on if the measure passes, but they won't have to change anything about their smart contracts or anything like that. We do have a long-term plan of bringing more of our governance on chain. If and when that happens, maybe the DeFi projects will have to adjust to that.
Perfect. That's the majority, Autumn, unless you've seen any in the chat, that's the majority, related to governance. I think we had 1 or 2 earmarked. Are DeFi platforms required to be transparent with their votes and to end users? Or is this entirely up to the platform to decide how transparent they want to be?
So on this thing, we opt for decentralization. We don't require anything from them. We will monitor. If we find a project that acts in particularly bad faith, maybe we will do something about it. But it's the same as us supporting DeFi projects now through other programs. We had other programs, DeFi projects get anything. If they don't use their funds in the way that's consistent with the intention of that program, they will stop getting them. So it would be similar for governance, I believe.
For platforms like Guard or AlgoFi, will governors now get 2 times the governance rewards?
Actually, yes. And that's, I view that as a feature rather than a bug. You both participate in DeFi and you commit for 3 months, you should get twice the rewards. So yes, you should get twice the reward. and you will have one vote on your own, and your project will vote presumably on your behalf with 2 more. So in some sense, you have 3 times the voting power in this arrangement.
Perfect. I'll move on to some grant and ecosystem funding related questions. Will the Algorand Foundation develop a more decentralized grant system like Catalyst on Cardano in the future? I think that's an open question.
Yeah.
I am not familiar with the Cardano system, so we can't answer. But we right now are, I think we are thinking about how to prioritize for the health of the ecosystem. I think our X-Gov solution will be a bit of decentralization there, of course, because then the community will be able to propose projects. The ex-governors will be able to upvote those projects for community vote. So that's a very important part of thinking about what projects could go forward to be considered for foundation funding more broadly.
I just wanted to chime in there. We also launched grants through Gitcoin also, and so we participated in grants round 13 on Gitcoin, and I think 12 projects were funded. This was our first kind of like just jump into it. We were testing it to see how it all worked, and it does, and we will be participating in grants round 14 also. So that is an opportunity for community and ecosystem to fund through quadratic funding on Gitcoin.
Lovely, thanks, Joanna. We have a grant currently with the Algorand Foundation. Does the program closure impact us? This came in a couple of different ways. Like, so is there any implications for grants that have been awarded with the closure with the now closure of the program? Sorry.
We are not in the habit of awarding grants and then taking them away from you once they have been awarded to you. So don't worry about that. We have a number of active grants. This is just a way of just prioritizing and organizing ourselves for maximum impact. That's all this is.
Perfect. And do existing grant winners have the opportunity to receive further funding? I would sort of just touch base on what was presented earlier, which was the contact emails for you to send through any proposals to the email addresses that were listed. Is ecosystem funding only available to developers? And this actually came in a few times.
No. So for instance, we'll come across a lot of developers through the hackathons, right? And that's where ideas are seeded and supported. And then I guess it's the high potential projects where the ecosystem leads will start to engage with those high potential projects, and then they will go on to receive ecosystem funding from us. So I guess it's kind of the highest potential projects are the ones that will get funded. They might necessarily be, sometimes they might be founded by a developer, and sometimes they may not. They might be a fintech who's moved into Web3 or whatever that might be, TradFi into Web3. So not necessarily.
Great. As grant winners very close to launch, how can we contact Algrand for equity investment? And as I said earlier, just please email ecofunding@algrand.foundation, include a pitch deck and a summary of the round terms. Unless anybody has anything additional to add, I'll move on to the next question. How does the eco funding system work, and what is the process? So I think Stacey had obviously touched on that. The new process relies on nominations, so trusted partners within the ecosystem, such as Borderless, Algorand Inc., along with foundation staff and vertical leads who will source and assess the projects and seek funding. Projects should be referred internally or reviewed and voted upon in bi-weekly funding committees that acts on the recommendations of vertical leads. So you haven't been referred, you can contact the team. And as I said, I'll drop it into the chat on our website. There's a list of all the different contact email addresses that you can use to reach out.
But I just want to build on that, Ronan, as well.
Yep.
You know, like we do, I guess, kind of recommend budding developers who want to, take a leap into entrepreneurship. So they might participate in a hack and they might go on to an accelerator. But, we would like you to start building relationship with those ecosystem leads. This will become their hunting ground. They will start to build relationships with you early on. And I would recommend that you, jump in at that stage. It's, same with any kind of VC investment or any kind of funding, it's all about building a relationship with those investors. And, that is how we would like this to play out with our ecosystem leads also.
Ronan, can you put the slide of the contact information up instead of just the question slide?
I'll move on to sort of community and events. So are there any big Algorand events organized or coming next? I might give that to you, Joe.
Yes, so AVM is a developer-focused event that is taking place on June 8th. We're really excited about the content. We have first off kicking it off with a women's breakfast in the morning, and then we're going to get a download from the AVM team at the Inc. about the gift that keeps on giving, AVM, and then there'll be our ecosystem partners will then be doing pitches to you, the developers, about what's upcoming in our ecosystem. So they'll be pitching to you and trying to entice you to come on board and jump in with Algorand. And then the afternoon will be, a series of panels about DeFi, NFT creators. We've got some really cool speakers coming up, and where as speakers are jumping in, we'll be updating our AVM website. So yeah, just stay tuned on that on the website. All the information will be on the website. I'll share the link as well here.
Lovely. Autumn, this one's for you. What is something you wish you saw more from the community? Top 3 ways the community can help.
Holy cow, that's a great question. What we're really looking for right now is kind of regional awareness. So I would say flag yours if you are someone who is interested in hosting an event, grabbing 20 friends who are interested in crypto and going to pizza, anything of that nature, reach out to me. We're looking for representatives for, evangelists all over the globe, really. So just don't be afraid to reach out. And do know that I mean what I say. With this Community 2.0 coming, we will have a lot more opportunities, structured, scalable opportunities for you all to participate and be rewarded for your enthusiasm. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Can the Algorand Foundation create a public calendar of sorts with clear, concise dates, including DeFi goal deadlines? From an events perspective, I think Autumn and Joe have also touched there on the new events page. In terms of DeFi specific, Stacey, keep me honest, but I assume the community would have to follow the DeFi updates from the DeFi options available directly, as opposed to the foundation sharing that information.
I'm not sure I understood that, but sure.
Developers, will the foundation be focused on mobile developers in the future? Joanna, that's for you.
Sorry, will we be focused on mobile developers?
In the future, yep.
We're going to be talking to all developers.
Perfect.
developers. You've got a good idea, jump in with Algrand. We will support you, and we are improving at every moment that we can. We are, coming up with ways and new ways to support you. We're listening to you, so bear with us. But we'll be launching office hours as well for our developers, also in the coming days. So stay tuned also.
A general question: what technologies or applications does the Algorand protocol most need to thrive? It's an open question.
And a
Sorry,
good one,
repeat that again, please.
Sorry, what technologies or applications does the Algorand protocol most need to thrive?
It's not the protocol, it's the ecosystem, right? So the protocol is a piece of technology. It's the best technology in crypto, and the protocol itself has the features that everybody on this call is quite well aware of. It does over 1,000 transactions per second, soon moving to 10,000 transactions per second. We settle in 4.5 seconds. We will soon settle in 2.5 seconds. We have a very light carbon footprint of about 7 houses. And so the protocol itself has a pipeline of additional features, you know, as long as your arm, as it keeps kind of upgrading and upgrading things that you've heard about, state proofs and increased transaction speeds and the like. The ecosystem itself needs to organically, and with our help, you know, prioritizing where we see activity that doesn't take place, it needs to take place in a number of different ways. And if you look at other ecosystems, they have things that we don't yet have, or they have 5 where we have 2, right? But this is a very organic process that kind of needs to come from the ground up. And we have so much going on now. We have so many projects that are now in the audit process. There are so many products now on testnet that are moving to mainnet. So we are going to see a Cambrian explosion of different projects and platforms in this ecosystem, on this protocol. And the thing about the Algorand protocol is that enables you to scale. We can keep up with you. We can keep up with you as your project gets bigger, and we can keep up as the number of projects multiply on the protocol. So we're ready.
You mentioned state proof, Stacey, and a couple of the registrants had asked any exclusives around when they'll be available on DevNet, testnet, or possibly mainnet.
They have already put the Falcon keys, the keys that are needed. They're sort of a post-quantum secure keys that are required. And my understanding is that was a pretty difficult hurdle to get through. And so those are already now out on testnet. And so it's a process from there to roll from testnet to mainnet. And you have, I don't have any particular insight into this, but that published timeline is not slipping. So it's in kind of Q3, Q2, Q3 that they're going to keep that they'll be able to roll this out. Lovely.
Joe, I'm going to ask you this one. Can we have an update on any EVM compatibility on the London Bridge project?
Yes. So under the bridges, there's going to be a couple of announcements coming out in the next 2 weeks. Yeah, they will be around some aforementioned projects. EVM compatibility, there are 2 forerunners, and we hope to make that announcement also at AVM.
Lovely. Autumn, in which continent will the next Decipher event be? Any exclusives for people that obviously attended or were interested in attending last year?
Pleading the fifth.
Perfect.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, that's most of the pre-submitted questions that we've collated. That I'm just trying to see if there's any. Did you notice any in the chat, Autumn, that I sorry, while I was busy doing the questions, did anything pop in?
There's a question here on nodes. Sorry, just there.
I'll delegate that to Shai. Sorry, yeah. I haven't seen the question, but.
What was the question?
So who should I get in touch with to help incentivizing the creation of new nodes?
We are rolling programs out every so often, once or twice a year, related to running various types of nodes, and we intend to keep doing that. We would be happy to get ideas of more programs like that. And for that, just, access any of the normal Algorand Foundation channels, and it will get, eventually it will get to me or other people that are dealing with the technical stuff, and it will go into our next programs. But if you want, you can send me an email if you want to talk to me specifically, but generally just, reach through the normal Algorand Foundation contact channels.
Otto, I'm trawling through. I don't see any others. Did you catch any I missed?
I don't think so, and we're coming up on the hour, and I promise we do our best to keep it under. So I think that we can wrap this up. If our speakers would like to drop your Twitter handles in the chat so that everyone can be found. Thank you all so much for joining, everyone in the community. We are grateful for you. We are working hard for you, and there's more great things to come. So stay tuned. Thank you again, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. The session is recorded automatically, so the minute the event finishes, you'll receive the recording on demand to watch at your pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, so what'd you guys think about that? I thought the most interesting, the big headline for me was just the fact that they're actually really paying attention to the DeFi ecosystem, and that right now the governance kind of disincentivizes you from participating because it encourages you to lock up your algo. And as you know, if you guys are followers of this channel, I actually broke my governance this time because there was too much stuff I wanted to participate in. So I decided to make that break and put more into some of the projects, like the farms on Tiny Man or what did it. It was just making too much, and it's pretty steady. It's been steady returns, so I've been pretty happy with that. I was trying to stack more algo. So I think that's great. I think it's a good idea. Interesting that they're going to do 2 times rewards. I thought that was pretty interesting. And then for DeFi participation, I'm really curious how that's going to work. I'm really curious about how the structure of it is going to work. How are they going to set all that up? Because that's going to be, hey, Michael Jordan, what's going on? I was going to dunk on me. Hey, welcome to the channel, man. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I'm really curious how that functionally is going to work. Like, how are they going to track your participation? I mean, you're in with your wallet, so it kind of makes sense. But are you going to have to commit a certain amount to DeFi? I'm not sure how that's going to work. And then interesting if you're using things like AlgoFi, that apparently you'll essentially be able to double dip. So you'll be able to, because they allow you to participate on their platform and still participate in governance. So you can do that and get the 2 times rewards for DeFi. So technically, like you said, there'd be basically triple rewards for that. That's pretty crazy, right? Very, very interesting. I'm very curious how that's going to go. So we're running out of juice. Curious what you guys think. Leave it in the comments. If you're watching this on replay, leave it there. I thought it was really interesting. I don't know if I've ever, I think I have before. I think that's the second time I've watched one of them. First time I've live streamed it. It's pretty interesting. I realized that it can't really, I was trying to watch for little spots where I might unmute my mic and make little comments, but it doesn't really work apparently, because you just never know when they're going to start speaking again. So I found that using the chat worked a lot better. Plenia says I use a little, put you live on here. I do governance a little bit in Yieldy and Tiny Man. Yeah, me too, man. Tiny Man, Yieldy. I've been using not AlgoFi. I think I have a little bit in AlgoFi, but I don't pay that much attention to it. Big on Algo Fund. I think that's going to be kind of a sleeper there. Pretty excited about that. I'm going to put you up too. Got to put my friends up here. Here you go. And Algo stake is really interesting. I didn't know how I felt about it, the fact that they weren't using smart contracts, but I kind of like the idea that it stays in your wallet. So, I mean, there's like, I don't really try to participate in Algo stake, if that makes sense. Like, but if I happen to have assets and they qualify for something on Algo stake, I use them. Why not? Can't say no to that. So I think that's pretty interesting. But yeah, I think this will be a good change. And it sounded like, no, they didn't explicitly say it, but they kind of implied that they're maybe not really happy with DeFi participation, that they want more. I thought that was really interesting. I didn't realize that. I thought participation was pretty good because there's a lot of stuff popping up. Yeah, it made me think that they mentioned that one part about community and hosting meetups. I thought that might be kind of cool to host a meetup. I try not to say exactly where I am, but I am like equidistant between some pretty major cities. So even though my place is small, I would be pretty easy to access from at least three or four major cities, which should be interesting. So I don't know. I'll think about that. It'd be interesting if I could get. You'd have to think about what that is. Planning events is really hard. I've planned a couple events, and they are, even the simplest event takes a ton of planning to make sure it goes right. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for watching along on the live stream with me. I thought that was really fun. I'll probably do. I mean, next time they do one of these, I'll probably do the same thing. I thought it was a lot of fun and interesting, just depending on the timing. It's kind of hard because they do these during the workday, so it can be a little tough for me. But hey, I appreciate everybody watching. Thanks so much, and as always, we will see you in the future.